It's intuitive that part of improving our posture is going to involve raising our rib cage in space, as it's quite obvious that people exhibiting poor posture have their rib cage drooping down towards their pelvis. But the correct way to lift the rib cage is not all that intuitive. Most people tend to lift their rib cage by lifting only the front and end up shortening their back. We can get around this problem, though, with a little thought. Let's imagine a cylinder going through the side of our rib cage. If we look from the side, that will produce a circle on the rib cage. We'll imagine that the furthest forward point of that circle is at the height of the armpit, which means the circle could be horizontally cut in half at the height of the armpit. Let's now imagine that there's a wall coming up from the front of our ankles, and this cylinder at the rib cage is up against that wall, almost like a paint roller that could be rolled along the wall. The rotation we want to make of this cylinder is to roll up the wall by going back at the lower half of the cylinder and forward at the upper half. As we roll against the imaginary wall, obviously we will go upward. As long as we stay against the imaginary wall, we will never go too far forward or backward with any part of the rib cage. We will simply go up. I find this idea very useful in standing, walking, and sitting. But when sitting or walking, imagine that the wall is coming up from the front of your pelvis instead of from your ankle. There are two opposite mistakes that could be made. We cannot allow the backward movement at the lower part of the cylinder to pull us off the wall. However, we also cannot allow the movement forward at the top of the cylinder to push the rib cage through the wall. This is a balancing act. As the cylinder rolls up, we are going both backward and forward. Another common issue is the desire to do too much with the arms or shoulders. This rotation of the rib cage is not about using your arms. The rotation of the rib cage will alter the relationship between the rib cage and the arms, but we just want to leave the arms out of this for the most part. Let the movement happen at the rib cage, as that is the movement we're making. This idea is useful because most people tend to allow the lower part of their ribcage cylinder to rotate forward and down, which then rolls the upper part of the cylinder back and down. You can see that most people have their cylinder pushed through the wall at their ankle, and that's clearly been caused by the lower end of the cylinder rotating forward. This idea can help us make the opposite rotation, one that lifts the back of the rib cage and the front. Expect this to produce a new feeling of tension, potentially in your back, possibly behind your shoulder blades, or lower near your lower back. That is okay, as we want to introduce due tension into the fascia of the back and abdomen. And of course, the feelings will change over time. This simple idea can lead to a significant change in your torso. Your understanding of this idea can change over time, so don't get too attached to how you perform this movement. You may find it's only possible to get a little movement on your first tries, and you may find you can make more movement weeks or months from now. So give it a little time and give it some thought.